Welcome back to Things You Don't Know. Today's topic came about as a kind of a joke when Dr. Deneen and Chandler and I were talking. Our prompt for our little discussion was to come up with a less serious and kind of weird idea that might still have some relevance. So today, we're talking about something that sounds basic but sends tens of thousands of people to urgent care every year. What is it? Hammering a nail into a wall.
Yeah, and we're taking it one step further. How to do it safely, whether you're blind or have low vision.
That's very important. So we'll cover the physics, the right tools, and then walk through evidence-based adaptive techniques that occupational therapists actually teach. This is for anyone who wants to stay out of the ER, and especially for people who can't rely on sight.
According to a home safety report from 2023, improper hammering technique causes, you believe this, roughly 21,000 finger related home injuries every year in the US of A.
Wow, that's crazy. And more than 30% of DIY wall damage comes from picking the wrong nail or hardware for the wall material. Wrong nail, wrong angle, wrong wall. And suddenly you've got cracks, craters, or a bent nail buried in the drywall. Uh-oh.
Nothing anybody wants. So let's frame this. We're going to talk about choosing the right nail and hammer, core safety techniques anyone, sighted or not, should use, and how a blind or visually impaired person can do this safely using touch, sound, and adaptive tools.
If you're sighted, this will make you safer. If you're blind, this makes the task possible in a controlled way, not a gamble.
Let's start off with nails. If you're hanging something light on a drywall, the usual recommendation is a 1 to 1.5 inch finishing nail, around 15 to 18 gauge, thin enough to reduce cracking, long enough to hold.
For plaster, which is harder but more brittle, hardened steel masonry nails do better. Lab tests show they can reduce cracking by something like 40% versus regular steel nails.
And if your wall is brick or concrete, hey, you're out of the regular nail territory. You want masonry nails or self tapping screws. Trying to drive a wood nail into brick is how you end up with a bent nail, a scarred wall, and a very bad mood.
Quick pressure numbers just to give folks a sense. Drywall, roughly 500, 1,000 pounds per square inch. Good for small nails, not big loads. Plaster is around 2,000 to 3,000 pounds square inch, stronger but more brittle. And brick, 8,000 to 15,000 pounds per square inch, which is why regular nails just fold.
Now the hammer. For light wall work, studies show a 10 to 12 ounce hammer gives the best balance of control and force. That's true in general, and it's especially important for blind users because lighter hammers give better feedback and less vibration, so you can feel what's happening.
Occupational safety guidelines also say when you're starting a nail, keep your fingers at least 1 inch below the impact zone. Even pros miss strike around 7 to 10% of the time. So if your fingers are near the head of the nail, you're just volunteering them as a target.
Dr. Weaver, walk us through the basic motion. What should any listener be doing now, sighted or blind?
Okay. Well, once the nail is positioned and started, you do three key things. First, you grip the hammer near the end of the handle. This increases leverage and stabilizes your swing. Second, move mostly from the elbow, not the shoulder. Now, shoulder heavy swings are wild swings. Research shows they're responsible for about 15% of bent nails in novice tests. And three, use controlled force. The first tap is very, very light, maybe 5 to 10 pounds of force, just enough to anchor the nail without bending it or crushing the wall surface. Once it's set, typical driving strikes for light nails are around 25 to 40 pounds. You're letting the hammer's weight do the work, not trying to punch through the damn house.
And if the nail bends, don't straighten and reuse in the wall. A study from a home improvement council found bent nails are 3 times more likely to fail within a month, especially in drywall. Just throw it away and start over.
So that's the general technique. Now let's shift to where a lot of people listening really care. What changes when a person can't see that well or even at all?
What I'm curious about, if I'm blind and I want to hammer a nail into the wall, what's the very first step?
Well, you either win or lose this task in the setup. A lot of occupational therapy data suggests that 70 to 80% of accidents can be prevented by just good setup alone. That means clear the area, nothing on the floor where you're standing, nothing sticking out of the wall that you don't expect. A blind carpenter wants a predictable environment, stable stance and surface. If you're using any kind of stool or step, it must be solid and non-wobbly, but ideal for beginners. Practice at standing height on scrap wood, not on a ladder. What about marking the exact same spot on the wall? Sighted people just eyeball it and poke around.
Well, blind carpenters don't hunt. And yeah, there are some blind carpenters, by the way. They pre mark. Common tactile markers include one, a small piece of painter's tape where the nail will go. Two, a tactile bump dot stuck on the wall. Another is a tiny pin or thumbtack just used as a locator point. You find the tape or bump with your finger, that's the target. You're never guessing, like, oh, it's somewhere over here.
And if there's a sighted helper in the room, the good lighting is for them, not for the blind person. The blind person is working off touch, sound, and muscle memory, not visuals.
Now, this is the part that everyone worries about. If I can't see, how do I hold the nail and not hit my fingers?
Occupational therapy research shows most injuries happen in the first two taps of the nail when it's still wobbly and your fingers are very close. So, for blind users, we don't do that the traditional way. We adapt. Method A, use a nail holder, and that's strongly recommended by most OT people. The tools include a magnetic nail starter, or a plastic nail holder, or spring loaded nail clamps. You slot the nail into the holder, not your skin, sits in the hammer's danger zone. Some safety groups report over 90% reduction in finger injuries when people use these tools.
So your hand could be several inches away from the head of the nail, and you're just holding the plastic of the clamp.
Yeah, exactly. Your fingers are still stabilizing things, but they're never above the nail's head. Method B is cardboard or clothespin guide. I kind of like this because it's a low cost option and it uses materials that most people have around their house. If you're using the cardboard thing, you fold a piece of cardboard and poke the nail through it. Or if you're using a wooden clothespin, you can use that to grip the nail. Then you hold the clothespin or cardboard, not the nail itself. When the nail is anchored, you simply slide the guide off.
I have to say, this is smart, even if you're fully sighted but just clumsy. Hey, it's cheap insurance.
Once the nail is in the holder and lined up on that tactile marker, how does a blind user know their hammer swing is straight?
Well, really, it's through sound and vibration. Blind carpenters are basically running kind of a little physics lab with every tap. A clean, straight hit makes a sharp, single ping sound. A glancing blow gives a double kind of scraping sound, a sign that you're coming in at an angle. The vibration in the hammer handle tells you if the nail is seating firmly or if it's starting to bend. That first step is extremely gentle. It's a gentle tap. Around 5 pounds of force, as we already said. You're not hammering yet. You're just anchoring the nail.
So the sequence is this: nail and holder on the tactile mark, very light taps to anchor, check sound and feel, then gradually increase force, but still controlled though.
Yeah, exactly. And for blind users, we usually shorten the swing. Keep your elbow tucked at your side. Keep your wrist straight. Hammer and moving in a short vertical arc, almost like a metronome. Occupational therapists report that reducing swing distance cuts miss strikes by 40 to 60%. Yeah, less speed perhaps, but more control.
One technique I've seen in rehab is keeping one hand on the wall. What's going on there?
Well, that's really huge. We teach people to keep the non hammer hand flat against the wall, above the work area, fingers spread out and far from the nail. That hand does three jobs. One, it gives a tactile reference point so you know exactly where the wall is. Two, it helps prevent your body from drifting sideways. And we kind of do that when we're making this motion. Three, it provides a sense of orientation. You always know this is up, this is left, this is where my nail is.
So the blind user isn't just swinging in an empty space. Their body is anchored to the wall the whole time.
And from a sighted helper standpoint, that free hand is off limits. You guide verbally, you don't grab or jostle. Don't be a misguided Samaritan.
Let's talk about that for just a second. If I'm the sighted friend helping out the blind friend, what's the right way to go about doing that?
Okay. Well, use precise verbal directions. Don't say a little over there or a little over here. The classic system is the clock face. Like you might say, tilt it slightly towards 1 o'clock, or move your hand 2 inches to the right, or the nail is straight. Good. Now tap. This keeps the blind person in control of the task while getting feedback. You're a voice assistant, not a puppeteer, folks.
And if something's unsafe, like their fingers are drifting too low, you say it very clearly. Your fingers are getting close to the hammer. Move them up.
We also need to talk about how much weight you're hanging and where.
Oh, you are so right. I've seen people make this error many times. For anything over about 10 pounds, you want to use a stud finder. It's a standard 2x4 wall stud, can handle about 100 pounds on a properly anchored and angled nail. But hanging that same weight from just drywall, well, it's just going to rip a nice hole in the wall. It's a tear out.
And I can't emphasize this enough. Stay away from electrical. As a rule of thumb, wiring is often within 6 to 12 inches of an outlet or switch box on either side. So don't go hammering nails next to those.
Absolutely not. And right here is where adaptive choices matter too. Adaptive choices matter. If the item is light, a calendar, or a small hook, you might be able to just skip nails entirely. You could use these tools instead: self-adhesive wall hooks, Velcro strips, or removable mounting tapes. For many blind users, especially beginners, this removes a lot of risk.
Let's list the key adaptive tools for blind or low vision users.
Yeah, okay. The big three: magnetic hammers or nail starters. Those are the things that hold the nail upright for you before you ever touch it with the hammer face. Two, nail setting punch. You tap the punch, not the nail. Your fingers stay well back, and the punch transfers the force. Three, nail holders, clamps or cardboard guides. As we said, these keep the skin out of the impact zone.
And then there's that famous tool that we can't buy, but we absolutely need: practice.
Indeed. Blind occupational therapy instructors often recommend 30 to 60 minutes of practice on scrap wood before you ever touch a real wall. Here's where you learn what a straight hit sounds like and feels like, how much force is just enough, how to keep that elbow in and swing in a short arc, where your reference hand should be on the wall or the wood. You're building muscle memory. You're not building courage here.
And we should say this out loud. This podcast is not and is not meant to be a substitute for medical or rehab advice. If you're blind or have low vision, working with an occupational therapist is ideal. They can watch your movement, your balance, your environment, and help you customize all this.
Let's wrap things up by putting this into one simple little checklist, especially for blind or low vision users.
Okay, here's the sequence. One, plan the spot. Find the stud if you need one. Stay away from outlets and switches. Two, set up the space. Clear the floor and wall. Stand on a stable surface. Three, mark the target tactually. Painter's tape, bump dot, or a tiny pin or thumbtack. Four, load the nail into a holder, clamp, or cardboard guide. This helps your fingers stay out of the impact zone from the very beginning. And five, position your body, non-hammer hand flat on the wall above the work area, elbow close to your side, wrist straight, short vertical hammer arc. Six, micro tap to anchor. The first tap is feather light, just enough to hold the nail. Listen for a clean ping, feel for straight, adjust if needed. Seven, drive with controlled strikes. Gradually increase force, letting the hammer's weight work. If the nail bends, stop and replace it. Eight, use alternatives when they are smarter. Adhesive hooks, Velcro, or other hardware when nails are overkill or risky.
As we said in the beginning, folks, if you're sighted, these steps make you more precise and safer. If you're blind, they make hammering a nail a repeatable, manageable, controlled skill instead of something you avoid because it feels too dangerous.
So, the takeaway is this, folks: hammering a nail isn't just hit that old metal thing until it goes in. There's physics involved, there's body mechanics involved. And for blind or low vision or vision impaired users, there is a ton of smart adaptation.
Exactly. Skill isn't magic, it's method. Pick the right hammer, the right hardware, control your force, anchor your body, and use adaptive tools that keep fingers out of the strike zone.
This podcast helped you, especially if you're dealing with vision loss or helping someone who is. Please share it around. And if you're working with a rehab professional, bring these ideas to them and say, help me customize this.
Indeed. Listen, thanks for listening. Stay curious, stay safe, and we will see you next time, hopefully, right soon. Bye for now.
Bye bye.